guys. Secure your stronghold. And what I mean by this is it's been helpful for me to imagine a castle, a beautiful castle. And within that castle is everything that pertains to me. So my values, my emotions, my sexuality, my shadow, all the things about myself I avoid, repress, or deny, the patterns that keep showing up in my life, traumatic experiences that I may have had when I was younger, and relationships. And I found it really useful to imagine a beautiful castle, as I say, everything that pertains to me, as a starting point for not only personal work, but a realization of sovereignty. And um, as a man, it's really important for us to have a container around ourselves and to bring our consciousness to every corner of that, every corner of our psyche and our consciousness. So ask yourself, if you were king of a beautiful castle, how would you keep it? How would you look after it? Consider that. Okay. Um, for example, just do you make your bed every morning? Do you keep your space clean and orderly? As far as the rituals that you engage in every day, do you bring intentionality to every corner of your castle? I found this to be a really useful tool because bringing awareness to our relationship to these different aspects of self is incredibly powerful and really helps to manifest our sovereignty. Now, if you had a castle that you loved and you tended to with love and care and exact detail, would you be more careful about who you invite into your castle or what you invite into your castle? You would, right? And so the more that you outline your values and you see your castle as this extension of you, everything that pertains to you, the more mindful you become as you care about it more, the more mindful you become about who you invite into it, who you allow in. And this relates to work professionally, um, from a friendship standpoint, business relationship standpoint, and also our intimate relationships. The more we love our castle, the higher our standards become for who is allowed to share space in our castle. How do they respect our castle? Do they acknowledge and notice how we respect ourselves and respect our own castle? And this manifests in every area. It might be how you keep your car, it might be how you keep your living space, your bedroom, your kitchen. I was struck by um, the movie The Last Samurai, one of my favorites, watching this, how the samurai tend not only to their homes but to the fields. There's an intentionality about the container of their home and their village. And that really struck me because I realized that I hadn't brought a lot of mindfulness to my life. There were whole areas of my life that were just on autopilot. And the more that I was able to bring my mindfulness and intentionality to everything I was doing, the more in integrity I became as far as decisions I was making around not only what I was doing out in the world, but who I allowed into my castle. And the more I tended my castle, kind of like a garden, the more I tended my castle, the more careful I became about decisions in business, decisions in my life, decisions in relationships. And so I found this analogy to be really, really helpful. And I invite you to give some consideration to it because we are more than our money. We're more than our stuff. Okay. And having a vehicle or a model to access these different aspects of self is how we can bring our intentionality to all of these different aspects of ourself. And that's going to have a, a knock-on effect in all of our business dealings, all of our relationships, and just who we are out in the world. So when I say secure your stronghold, your decisions start to align with what keeps your castle secure, what keeps your castle pristine and in good order. And it also gives you the opportunity to examine some of the things within your castle. I talked about the shadow, and I'll address this in another video, but consider the things about yourself that you avoid, repress, or deny. Okay, they could be emotional things, it might be traumatic things, patterns of behavior that show up in your relationships. Your castle is a little bit like a mirror, whereby you can put everything onto that mirror and examine it to see whether or not you are being intentional or reactionary based on what's happening outside of you. Are you a cause or are you an effect? Are there areas of your castle that are in darkness and in poverty because your consciousness isn't isn't taking ownership of these different aspects of self? Are there rooms that are plunged in darkness? Are there rooms that are in a state of neglect or disarray? So this is your invitation to consider your castle, consider your stronghold, consider all the rooms in it. And as I said, it includes your emotional life. Many men are very acquainted with their anger or rage. But what about guilt? What about shame? What about grief? All of these emotions need to be welcomed within our castle. We need to have a relationship with these different emotions, with these different aspects of ourselves, so that we can become more powerful and take more responsibility out in our lives and out in the world. So, this invitation is more of a taking stock, taking inventory, beginning by imagining your castle and bringing all these aspects of yourself within the castle walls. Because really, the walls of your castle, you might consider those your boundaries. The walls of your castle actually are protected by your anger. And I mean anger, not rage. Rage is really repressed anger. But anger just itself is healthy. It's healthy to feel anger because anger says no. And so the castle example is really helpful because that's your defense for everything valuable that is you, that is within this castle. So I found it helpful to make a list of all the things that are within my castle. And like I said, it could be your shadow. Give some time to what is it that is showing up in your relationships that you can't quite put your finger on right now, but they keep showing up. There are thoughts maybe that you're ruminating on, patterns that you're in. What are the things that you're proud of? What are the things you're not proud of? Are you using substances, or are there practices that aren't serving you? Could be pornography addiction, could be alcohol, could be drugs. Bring it into the castle because it's all there looking for your consciousness to bring light to it so that you can free yourself. Okay? So this episode is really just to touch on the concept. There's a lot more to this practice that I have found really beneficial, but the idea of securing your stronghold is something that I carry with me in my life as I move through my professional life, as I move through relationships, and it's the container. Now, you may have heard some women talk about containment. You may have heard people talk about very wealthy, successful, powerful men who, when you're in their presence, you feel safer. You feel like their consciousness is permeates all the different facets in that environment, so that nothing is really left to chance. Nothing is really, or I should say, the possibility of something unforeseen or um, a really huge surprise is reduced, and you feel safe in their presence. That's kind of how it feels when a castle is well tended to. People can feel it. People can feel when your mindfulness is on all aspects of the area where you are, the field that you are in. And men like this give off a powerful energy when you're around them or when you work with them or for them, because they're taking responsibility for all of these different aspects. And other people feel like there's kind of an overwatch. There's consciousness there. They're not just fumbling around on their own. But in order to get to that point, you first have to do that for yourself. That personal accountability, that personal dedication to bringing consciousness to all the different corners of your castle, all these different relationships with your emotions, each emotion, grief, anger, guilt, shame, happiness, joy, all of it. Write it all down. Your relationships with women, write it all down. The patterns that keep showing up, write it all down. The experiences you had in childhood with mother, with father, with siblings, write it all down. Your relationship to your own sexuality, write it all down. Bring it into the castle for review. Okay? This is part of cleaning your castle and securing your stronghold. You clean your castle by bringing consciousness to it and bringing it out of the shadow, out of just kind of automatic reaction. You are now becoming a cause in your life. But in order to do that, you have to secure your stronghold. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.